So, one of the thing that I wanted to share the is introduction. Sorry, not introduction to GraphQL. It's basically GraphQL. So let's go through this quickly. So there's this heading. Somehow the cursor is in the color of this thing, like it's pink color. It's cool. It's cool. Introduction to GraphQL. Learn about GraphQL, how it works, how to use it. So what is GraphQL? GraphQL is a query language for your API and a server-side runtime for executing queries using a type system you define for your data. So basically there is, when you think about it, a query language, probably think of it like Java, and server-side runtime, probably think of it as a Node.js. But usually when you think of it like Node.js, it has specific methods of JavaScript. They are separate things. JavaScript is separate, and the Node.js is separate. But for Node.js, there is particular language, like it has its own methods and all from JavaScript. So you can actually basically call Node.js a language also on its own. So I think that's what they are also trying to say here, like a language and a server-side runtime. You might be wondering, like, how can someone name two things the same thing, right? Like GraphQL cannot be a language and the server-side runtime at the same time. There is no differentiation, but this is my understanding. So you have a Node.js and you have this existing method. So you have runtime and the particular query language for that runtime. So that's basically GraphQL. It's a query language for your API and a server-side runtime for executing queries. So it's a language, and it has its own methods, which is queries using a type system you define for your data. So it has a particular type systems. So we can quickly go through this specification to get a better understanding. So we'll go through this just quickly, only the specifications. This is a specification for GraphQL, a query language and execution engines. Yeah, basically like query language and originally, so execution engine. Originally created at Facebook in 2012 for describing the capabilities and requirements of data models for client-server applications. The development of this open standard started in 2015. So it was after 3 years, it got a development for a standard started. Maybe people, probably this is an internal thing, and somehow it started after 3 years. Like people liked it, and they started a open standard for it. This specification was licensed under OWFA 1.0 in 2017. Okay, after 2 years, the GraphQL Foundation was formed in 2019 as a neutral focal point for organizations who support GraphQL ecosystems, and the GraphQL specification project was established in 2019 as the Joint Development Foundation Projects LLC GraphQL series. If your organization benefits from GraphQL, please consider becoming a member and helping us to sustain the activities that support the health of our neutral ecosystem. So basically, this is the foundation. GraphQL Foundation is a neutral foundation founded by global technology and application development companies. The GraphQL Foundation encourages contributions, stewardship, and share investment from a broad group in vendor-neutral events, documentations, and support for GraphQL. GraphQL was created in 2012 and open sourced by Facebook in 2015. Yeah. So as I told you, like it was an internal thing until 2012, and in 2015, the Facebook outsourced it, and there was an open standard created. And in 2019, Facebook and others created GraphQL Foundation as a neutral non-profit home for GraphQL assets and ongoing collaborations. So if you guys wondering, like if you want to like contribute to open source, this is a very good place to start. So yeah, so that's what it 2016. Yeah, the GraphQL specification was open sourced in 2015 and has since been implemented in a variety of programming languages. GraphQL isn't tied to any specific database or storage engine. It's backed by your existing code and data. So you might be wondering, like, even I use something called Prisma GraphQL, which is kind of integrated, but it's not actually related to a database or a database storage engine, which basically they're meaning to S3, AWS, something like that. If you are familiar with GraphQL and would like to read documentation on how to build a GraphQL service, Then there are libraries to help you implement GraphQL in many different languages. There are also many libraries available that allow client applications to query existing GraphQL APIs. Probably like I guess I don't remember it, but yeah, there's a lot of libraries in the front end. Describe your API with a type system. Describe your API with a type systems. Something that is not, you know, this is something not is relatively new to you if you are from a REST API background, where the standard is different, and here the standard is defined using a type system. So basically, when you mean by type, is basically you might be thinking of something like defining string or types basically. So that could be it. Like it could be something like that. A GraphQL service is created by defining types and their fields. So basically, the fields, let's say, I'm not sure I can quickly get that, but there was a small delay. Maybe put that here. So maybe it's fast. String name, something like this. So this is what comes into my mind when they say like GraphQL service is created by defining types and their fields. So basically types and their fields, and then writing a function for each field to provide the required data. So basically I define this, then I write a function to provide the required data, basically something like this. So I will write a function to basically give me this data. For example, a GraphQL service that tells you the name of the logged in user might look like this. Okay, type query. Okay, so as I said, like just like this is the field and this is the type. So then again you can again define the type like this, name string, along with the functions for each field on each type, Okay, I didn't probably get that. Resolver for the me field on the query type. Okay, me field on the query type, resolve query me parents arguments context info return context dot request dot auth dot user. Okay, probably your own logic here, right? You can actually write your own logic. So resolve query me, you resolve user name. So for that, what's going to be returned is get user full name. That's, you can actually do anything, like you define the types and the function is kind of what but I'm curious, like is this like, so after resource you give the type and the field. Is this the the format for the function name? Is it a standard, like along with the function, are there any like standards that should I like type and field? This is how the probably I'm not sure, is this how the the method name should be created? Resolver for the name, the user type comes first and something like that. Is it a standard or is it a must? That's what I'm trying to ask. Like, can I give like resolve some garbage thing? So do I have to follow this type and then the name? Okay, let's see. It's in the example above, the function that provides data for the me field on the query type uses information about the authenticated user who made the request, while the name field on the user type is populated using that user's ID. Okay, user's ID to fetch their full name from a database. Yeah, I can see that, but I actually like, if you have given like you're like, if you have connected to this, right, how these two things are connected, that would have been a better understandable thing rather than just explaining what's in this method. Like I can actually read the code and find out like this is what it's actually giving me. Like you're again saying the same thing, okay, but I'm not against it, but like you can, plus you could have given me like why this name, like what's the connection between these two. Okay, query exactly what you need. After a GraphQL service is running, typically at a URL on a web service. Okay, after a GraphQL service is running, typically at a URL on a web service, typically on a, so I've seen it, since I know I am going to tell you. So basically there, unlike GraphQL where you have user, or maybe you might have order, something like that. In GraphQL, if you are just going to get one URL, and if you are going to like get this, you just have to query user something like this types, using this type system, similar to this type system. That's how you actually query. It's kind of hard in some sense, but it's programmatically easy, but it might not be a better user experience, or like you might have to, like when you're debugging, you might face a bit of unfamiliarity, but same, where did I? It can receive GraphQL queries to, okay, after a GraphQL service is running, typically at a URL on a web service, it can receive GraphQL queries to validate and execute from clients. After running on web service, it can receive GraphQL queries to validate and execute from. So as they earlier said, like there are libraries, clients use particular libraries. So clients use particular library to query from server, basically using a, what did they say, like basically using GraphQL queries they query from, to validate and execute from clients. The service first checks a query to ensure, I'm just underlining things that actually not make sense. The service first checks a query to ensure it only refers to the types and fields defined for the API, and then runs the provided functions to produce the results. It first ensures the types and fields defined for the API. I don't know, I wonder how it does this, right? Like, so you write a query and then something like that. For example, okay, the query me name, okay, is a me and a name, could produce the following JSON as a result. So data name, okay, something kind of makes sense, like this is the query looks like this, and like it's better if you have given me like how am I going to, like there are 4 things that are actually playing. One is function, then there is type, and then there is field. Suddenly you have forgotten about the field, and the query just has the field, and the field actually gives you a JSON. I mean, like it would be really much better if you have connected these things, like it's kind of disconnected, like you're introducing something entirely new here, and you're just saying that this will we are following this, and suddenly like everything goes and like this comes up. Like this could have been made much better, like how the relations is happening, much better if you can relate a beginner. So someone who is basically like going through an introduction is basically a beginner. So this is not kind of beginner friendly. That's what I'm trying to say. Like, or maybe it could be just me, but yeah, it could be improved with even a simple query. We can see some of the key features that make GraphQL so powerful. The client can make queries to API that mirror the structure of the data that they need, and they receive just what the data in the expected shape with a single request without having to worry about the underlying data sources provided by it. So basically, like, the only problem I can think of it, like, let's say user have name, age, and address. Okay, so I just need a name. So in a typical REST API, you have to get all these details, but from GraphQL, I can just go, create something like user and name, and I can just get it. That's what they are. That's what the whole idea of GraphQL is. Like, you have a separate query language where you can only receive. But usually, when I was developing, like, I'm pretty not sure. Like, I have never be specific about this is how the UI is going to be. Like, that's not a good practice. But usually, like, I leave everything coming, because, like, in future I might need the address at some point. Like, that might be the case, but being specific is better way actually to for your own good. Like, it's better, and it's much more better performant, since you're not requesting unwanted data. But it's a work. It's not easy. Like, it's much more complex than REST. Evolve your API without versioning. Yeah. So okay. So versions only, you have to version it in REST, but you don't need to version. You just have to change the query. Simple as that. Client requirements change over the time, yeah. And GraphQL allows your API to evolve in response to those needs and without the overhead of managing different API versions. For example, if a new feature calls for more specific name values, to be available, then the user type could be updated as follows. So as I said, like, earlier it might have just asked name. Now you can, like, just ask for these things. And suddenly these guys popped up without any warning. Earlier they were not here. But suddenly they just popped up out of nowhere. Now people get confused. Probably, if you were paying attention, I think people might get a bit of complex, but it's not that much of a problem. But it's better to have things, I'm not a technical writer, but I'm just saying, like, just like a user complaining about the user experience. Client tooling will encourage developers to use new fields and remove usage. Client tooling will encourage developers to use new fields and remove usage of the depreciated name field. The field can be removed once it is determined it is no longer used. In the meantime, GraphQL will continue to provide its data as expected. So actually, basically, you can do like this, like something like this. That's really good. Like, users still follow the old one. Old data is also available, but gradually you can move to the new one. That's pretty cool feature. Try it out. The best way to learn GraphQL is to start writing queries. The query editors used throughout this guide is interactive, and try adding all this stuff. Actually, it's pretty cool. I think I might have to say bye bye to this. Yeah, everything's gone. What appears in, right? Pretty cool. Yeah, hero name, but again, like, I can't see the type now here. Like, it's just the fields. Maybe you just have to query through just the fields. Probably it's pretty confusing. Yes. The example in this guide are based on modified version of the Swappy GraphQL schema. Because these queries are designed for illustrative purposes, they will not run on the full versions of probably due to the difference between two schemas. You can try the full version of the API here. Maybe this is the full version actually has okay, there's an error. welcome to the it's okay. Pretty cool. Okay, might look like this. Field dog value, keyboard shortcuts. Let me delete all this. Do I need to save this or something like that? Fill. Will they give me that one as well? Okay. It's pretty hard when you actually don't know what's actually. This is pretty hard, right? Like I don't have. Are there anything like? Are there any examples? Anyway, like let's get back to the original ones. Foundation, I don't need it for now. Okay, so I think that's all this thing. Now that you know the GraphQL concept, you can learn about the type system. For in-depth learning experience, practical tutorial, training courses. Is it free? I'm not sure. Might be free. You can check it out. Yeah, probably. So see you on the one. This is the basic introduction. I hope you guys got an understanding. See you next.